Howdy, folks. This is Tony here. And as you know, I am deeply disappointed in the House of Representatives for passing H.R. 1808, which is a law that basically says you would not have the right to buy a semi-automatic centerfire rifle, and you would also not be able to buy any handgun that can accept a magazine in excess of 10 rounds. They're basically trying to resurrect Bill Clinton's 1994 gun ban, which, again, even if the gun ban did affect crime in some way, it doesn't matter. It's not constitutional. There are better ways to reduce crime than taking away the rights of gun owners in this country. In fact, let's just back all the way back up to the Second Amendment and unpack this a little bit. The Second Amendment basically says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of the free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, when you look at the Second Amendment, it's actually both a right and a responsibility. It's a right because the right of the people to keep and bear arms. Now, when you look at H.R. 1808, this bill basically said the Second Amendment, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, is not absolute. You cannot reconcile the idea of something not being infringed with a law that's saying we want to limit it. Limiting it is a form of infringement. I don't care how you word it, it's the same thing. If you say we don't believe in this right being an absolute right, we want to limit it, and then you go and limit it in such a way that I can't own anything invented after the 1880s, then what you're basically saying is you don't believe in me having that right. Now, here's the thing. They do believe. All of these Democratic politicians and the two Republicans that voted for it, they do believe in the Second Amendment. They just don't believe you have the right to have one. They don't believe I have the right to have one. If some politician wants to get an AR-15 and go plinking around in his backyard, you really think anybody's going to say anything? If some politician wants to have armed security guards that have 30-round magazines, or wants the military or the police to have incendiary rounds or anything extraneous that they're like, oh, well, you can't have it. You really think that they're going to not have it? Absolutely not. They want us to eat bugs while they eat steak. They want us to walk around in fear for our lives while they live behind gated communities. They want us to deal with the dangers brought on by illegal immigration while they live in their majority white, rich neighborhoods. I'm not making it about race here, but I'm just saying, even look for example, Patrisse Cullors, the founder of Black Lives Matter. She lives in a majority white neighborhood and has white guards. Yet she wants to talk about guns and talk about how white people are so bad, then why do you live around them and have them guarding your life? You see, the things that they say are bad, they actually like those things. Oh yes, Nancy Pelosi loves AR-15s as long as they are used by her guards and not by, and here's why that's so bad, right? You mean to tell me that I don't have the right to protect my children with the same thing you want the guards to protect your children with? Why are your children superior to mine? What makes you better than me? That's basically the approach that they are taking, like they're better than you. That's what this is all about. It is not about getting guns off the streets, because guess what? When Obama was president, he and Eric Holder sold a lot of guns to the cartels in Central America, which were actually used to kill American border agents. When Joe Biden was in office, you know, and I'm saying was because I'm hoping that he resigns after this bull crap. Anyway, when Joe Biden was in office, he gave tanks to Al Qaeda for free. But your Christian white male 30-something-year-old self is too dangerous with a semi-automatic rifle because you might do something to a school. But he let a known terroristic state own tanks paid for by Americans. But you can't have your 30-round magazine. Again, these people love guns. Joe Biden loves guns. As long as the gangs have them, as long as the cartels have them, as long as his guards have them, as long as the police have them, because they're going to be the enforcers of his will. Nancy Pelosi loves guns as long as they're protecting her mansion with her $30,000 fridge. Steny Hoyer, all of these, Donald McEachin, all of these guys, they love guns when they're owned by those who will protect the elites. But when you sit back and think about it, Let's stop and think about this for a second. The Second Amendment is both a right and a responsibility. The right part is the right of the people to keep and bear arms. The responsibility part is saying a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. Now, what does that mean? A militia is when common people grab their guns, form a group, and protect the land. Basically what Ukrainian civilians are doing against Russia right now, right? That's kind of what a militia is. And what it was saying is a militia is necessary. Notice it said necessary or essential for the security of a free state. We have a responsibility to protect our country, which means you have a responsibility to own a gun. You have a right to keep and bear it, but you have a responsibility to protect the free state. And that responsibility goes for every American. So if you sit back and think about the responsibility part in the Second Amendment, there's actually more constitutional support for compulsory gun ownership than there is for restricted gun ownership. If someone passed a law that said, if you have a wife and kids, you're required to own either a shotgun or a rifle. If you're a woman, you're required to own a handgun, because, I would be a lot happier seeing that happen than what they're trying to do now. Because guess what? Like I said, everything they don't want you to do, they're going to do. Everything they want to do, they don't want you to do it. Now, think about this. For example, you don't see Nancy Pelosi has children, but she wants you to abort yours, right? These politicians are protected by armed guards with probably superior weapons than what the civilians would have, but they don't want you to protect yourself with your gun. Nancy Pelosi and her live in gated communities. They want all of you stacked on top of each other in overly expensive apartment complexes because, it's less carbon footprint. Joe Biden will get on a private jet or get on a jet, Air Force One, whatever. He wants you to take the bus or take the train. You really think that somebody like Jim Clyburn, or I like to call him Jim Slyburn, or you really think Kamala Harris is going to drive a Tesla and eat vegan? Hell no. She's going to get on a helicopter that uses a crap ton of gasoline, and she's going to eat steak because she can, and she doesn't want you to. So just stop and think about this. This is not about guns, because those politicians love them. I don't care how far left her. I bet you Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she probably loves private jets, which use gasoline. AOC loves gasoline, steak, expensive vacations, and being protected by men with 30 plus round magazines, but she doesn't want you to have any of that. So at the end of the day, what we as Americans need to realize is it has nothing to do with guns, oil, carbon, or any of that. It has to do with their ability to say, I am above you. What I am allowed to do, you cannot. What I don't want to do, you have to do it. You're beneath me. I hope that whatever banner these Democrats are under, these politicians are under, whether it's Democratic or Republican or whatever, because there are some Republicans who think like that. People like Peter Meyer and Katko, and what's the other individual that I'm thinking of? The one who cries all the time. He's like a new John Boehner. He just has such a horrible looking face. He's from Illinois. Kinzinger. There we go. Liz Cheney. They're Democrats in disguise. People like this. I hope the American people send a strong electoral message in November. I am not shilling for Republicans here, because I've seen my fair share of disappointments come out of the Republican side. For example, Mitch McConnell rolling over on red flags. No, not men like that. I believe that we should look carefully at our candidates and make sure that we make them realize they are just men. They are not God.